students, how are you? I hope you all must be fit and fine. So today we are going to do the next part of the chapter, sorting materials into groups. Are you ready? So let's start. So we were here about the properties of matter. We were studying about the properties of matter, what is matter and all about that. So now the next thing we will going to do, we have learned what is texture. So now let's study and discuss about what is state. Materials may be grouped based on their state at room temperature into solids, liquids and gases. The difference in the state due to the difference in the arrangement of particles, the particles in the matter are always in a state of random motion. Some kinds of forces hold the particles together. The state of a substance depends on the strength of the force and random motion of the particles. So, materials are grouped based on their state in the room temperature. Some are classified as solids, some are classified as liquids, and some are classified as gas. So all of the three different matters turn into that their different state due to the differences. Why they are different in state and matter? Because the differences in the arrangement of particles, that particles are known as molecules, are always in a state of random motion, and some kind of force hold the particles together. The state of substance depends on the strength of force in the random motion of particles. So the where the particles go in any random motion, that's what basically state is, and hence are divided into three groups: solid, liquids and gases. So let's study about them: solids, liquids and gases. So first, solids. As we all know what are solids. Solids are things that we see regularly in our daily basis. Liquids, we see all of these things in our daily basis. But for now, let's assume that we are beginners and we don't know about anything. So first let's study about solids. There are some characteristics of each of them: solids, liquids and gas. There are some defined characteristics. So first, they have a definite shape and volume. Second, the particles in the solids are packed tightly together. Third, the particles cannot move from their place, so solids can't flow. They cannot be compressed as the particles are packed tightly together. So let's understand slowly what does it says. They have a definite shape and volume. So if you have seen a rock or something like that, or a pebble, or anything like, suppose a book or notebook as well. The book or notebook, suppose I have taken an example as book. It has a definite shape and volume. Suppose if you measure the weight of a book, it will be same, and it will be the same next day as well. And if you measure the shape of the book today, it will be the same shape tomorrow as well. And the particles and solids are packed tightly together. You can see here, these are particles of solids, and these particles are known as molecules. And as you can see that they are packed tightly together, that's why they cannot flow from their place. Books cannot flow like water and liquid does. That's why it says that. And next, they cannot be compressed as the particles are packed tightly together. If you try to compress a book ever, you cannot, because it is a solid and you can't compress a solid. Now let's move on to liquids. Liquid have a definite volume but no definite shape. As we all know that a common example of liquid will be water. Suppose there is water in a container. It have a definite weight but not a definite shape. Like if you put it in a flat container like this, then it will take the shape of this container. So hence its shape does not have a defined shape but have a definite volume. The particles and liquids are packed less tightly together than solids. So as you can see in this image, that the particles of solids are very closely packed over here, but the particles of liquids are not as much closely packed as than that of solids. There are some blank spaces over here as you can see, but there are very less and they are packed arranged tightly and packed very mannerly. Next, the particles can move slightly so liquids can flow. So here you can see that the particles have some space made between them. That's why they can move a little bit from here to there and hence liquids can flow. They can be compressed slightly as the particles are not packed tightly. They can be only compressed a little bit because the particles are not packed tightly. Now at the last, gases. They do not have definite shape or volume like than that of solids and liquids. The particles in gases are packed very loosely together, as you can see in this image that the particles of gas are very loosely packed than the solid and liquid. Gas are very far apart. There is so much space in the gas. Now they can be compressed easily as the particles are very loosely packed. If you have ever filled gas or just sucked up the air which is present in the environment, you have seen that when you press the syringe, it will be compressed, right? That's what compressibility is. Now next, solubility. Do you know what solubility is? To mix up together well. Well, you have heard some books or sometimes said it's soluble in this and that, is soluble in water, soluble in oil, it's soluble in this and that things. So what is solubility at all? Well, it's the quality of an object being mixed into another object properly. So let's learn about it a bit more. Here is an activity. Take equal amounts of water in 4 beakers and label them as ABCD. Add 1 teaspoon of sugar in each beaker, a flour in beaker B, and chalk powder in beaker C, and oil in beaker D. We have to record our observations. So let us see what will dissolve. As we all know, sugar will dissolve as well, and as well as in the flour in the beaker, flour will also dissolve but it will leave a color. Now chalk powder will not dissolve, it will float or sink, and oil floats on the surface. From the activity above, we can conclude that some substance dissolve in water, right? As you can see in this image, while others do not. Materials can be grouped based on their solubility as well. The substances that dissolve in a liquid are said to be soluble in that liquid. Sugar, salt, coffee are some substances that dissolve in water or that are soluble in water, because the substances that dissolve in liquid are only known as soluble, otherwise they are known as dissolved materials. Now the substances that do not dissolve in a liquid are said to be insoluble substances, as you can see here, like sand, chalk and pepper are some substances that are insoluble in water. Now here you can see some substances are soluble in water. Let's suppose that this is salt and this is sand. Some liquids such as milk and honey also dissolve well in water. You have seen that milk and honey dissolve in water but mostly change their color. The liquids that well together in water are known as miscible liquids. Liquids that do not mix well together are known as immiscible liquids but in water. Oil and water are immiscible liquids. If you put some drops of oil and petrol in water, the oil or petrol will form a separate layer. Like this image, you can see it's floating on top and the water is below. It forms a separate layer on the surface of water. So petrol and diesel are immiscible with water, but they are miscible with each other. So a liquid that is miscible with one liquid might be immiscible with other liquid. So it can be very different things. If you mix liquid water and oil, then it will not be mixed. It will form a separate layer. But if you mix oil and petrol, it will mix because they are made up of the same kind of product. So now let's see the next. Some gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide are also soluble in water, but aquatic plants and animals breathe oxygen dissolved in water. That's what we just said, that anything that could be dissolved in water, like from gases to solids, and aquatic plants to animals breathe in oxygen dissolved in water. The plants use carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide dissolved in beverages such as colas provide the fizz to the drinks. So it confirms that liquid can be miscible or can be mixed or can be soluble to any substance, including solid and liquid itself and gas. So let's move on. We have to answer these questions. Which of these is lustrous, hard and smooth? Lustrous is metal plant. Hard, it's also hard and smooth as well, because when you touch a metal plant, it will feel very soft and smooth. Which state of matter does not require a container to hold it? Well, it is a solid because it has a definite shape and definite volume. Liquids that do not mix well together are called immiscible liquids, as we have just studied. Liquids that mix together are known as miscible liquids, because everything is given here, as you can see. Now let's study about another characteristic of matter known as transparency. Materials can be classified broadly into three groups based on how much light they allow to pass through them. Now materials could be classified into these three groups. What are they? Transparent, translucent and opaque. All allow most light that falls on them to pass. So here are the characteristics of transparent objects. These are the characteristics of translucent and these are the opaque. So some examples of transparent will be clear glass, clean water, cellophane and clear plastic. We have seen all of them in our daily life and they all allow light to pass through them. Now translucent objects only allow some light that falls on them to pass through, like butter paper, tracing paper and frosted glass. Like on some windows you have seen frosted glass, so that it cannot be visible easily. It has some creaks in them. Now opaque objects do not allow any light that falls on them to pass through, like wood, cardboard, book, stone, metal, etc. Windows and windshields of aircraft, bus, train are made up of glass and it is allow visibility while protecting occupants from dust, water and wind. Like you have seen an car like this over here. So the car have some windows that are transparent, that is able to see through the outside, but it protects from dust, water and wind. Now we were here. The next characteristic will be flammability, and it's divided on the base that catch fire or not. That substances that catch fire in a basic summary will be flammable, like wax that we see in candles, paper, wood, petrol, diesel are some common examples of flammable substance. And the substance that do not catch fire easily are known as non-flammable. Water, sand, nitrogen gas, bricks and glass are some example of non-flammable. That's why we use water to just remove all the heat or the unneeded heat that the fire catches in some areas. Like suppose your cylinder catches fire, then you will try to make it stop by putting water in it, because water doesn't catches heat. Now, conduction of heat. Some substances allow heat to pass through while others do not. The substance in which heat flows quickly are known as good conductors of heat, because heat flows quickly in the good conductors. Like metals like aluminium, silver, copper are good conductors of heat. Substances that do not allow heat to pass through them are not called poor conductors of heat, like cloth, paper, wood and bakelite. It is a kind of plastic. Thermocol and bamboo are the examples of solids that do not conduct heat, and hence they are known as poor conductors of heat. Cooking utensils are made up of metals, because the heat from the fire can get easily to the food that is being cooked. But we cannot make handles with metals because they will burn our hand. Now, conduction of electricity. We can group materials based on their ability to conduct electricity as well. Like some materials like silver and copper allow electricity to pass through, hence they are known as good conductors of electricity. And other materials such as wood and plastic do not allow heat and electricity to flow, and they are known as insulators. The material used to cover electrical wires is always insulator, and this prevents us from getting any electric shocks while handling wires. That's why you have seen the outer coverings of wires from plastic, because they are insulators. Now at last, magnetic nature. Some materials are attracted to the magnet while some are not. That's basic, that if they attract to a magnet, they are known as magnetic. Like iron, steel, cobalt and nickel are magnetic, and the other substances, rest of the metals like iron, steel, cobalt and nickel are non-magnetic, and things that attach to the magnet are basically magnetic. Now the last characteristic will be sinking and floating. Floating is what we call an object either completely or partially rest on the surface of water. Some objects float while they would be dropped in water, while some sink to the bottom. It's based on the density that's in an object. More the amount of material, higher the density. Materials that are denser than water, such as iron, and so many objects that are denser than water, like iron and some metals like that. Now that's all for today. Hope you understood everything that we discussed today. If you, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Bye.